Hello folks, and thanks for watching. So this episode I thought I'd just go through some of the steps and processes I use when doing the end knot. Now this part of Tsukamaki is known as a few names, but Maki-Dashi is part of what this end knot is called. It's as you know, with Japan and everything they do, everything has a name. So this part of wrapping the handle is sometimes called Maki-Dashi. So this is the end knot, and this is the Hiniramaki style. This is actually just a cheap scarf or tsuka that I had laying around. It's got fake grey skin, the old plastic or PU, polyurethane, that I've just 3/4 wrapped with two different tones of Ito. The blue is a slightly thinner diameter than what the black is, but they're both Ito wraps, not Seigyo. And I've just done this crisscross pattern and the two different tones to try and make it a bit easier to demonstrate what we're doing here in the steps that I'm going to show you. So another thing I want you to keep in mind too, like this is just for demonstration. There's no hishigami. It's pretty rough and ready. It took me, I know, about half an hour to wrap down to there. And now I've reached this end knot phase, and this is, you know, what the video is all about. So that's the focus there. Also, just try and keep in mind, guys, while I'm showing you this, these bits I haven't tightened as much as what you probably should, and that's again just for ease of showing you guys where these guys will loop under and over, and hopefully do it a little bit more ease, to show you what the process is, not so much the work itself, but the process of tying this knot. The kashira as well, I haven't sat down as far as what I normally would. I have created a little ledge in there. Traditionally, or with the handles I've looked at, and what I like to do is really have this race skin meeting up under the kashira if at all possible, and just have that kashira fitting more snugly down onto the end cap. But again, just for the purpose of demonstration, I've got everything sort of loosely in place, roughly where it should be. But you may see bits of the handle underneath this and all that type of thing once we get started. But so I just wanted to, as disclaimers, just to state all that to you guys, to say that this isn't a finished piece. This is just for the demonstration. So also with your Ito wrap, keep in mind, usually 10mm across here is what you're after when you're sourcing this type of stuff, no matter what color. Different materials will have different characteristics in them. This is cotton, and you'll see here, this is a 10mm across, but when I stretch it, you'll see that it sort of reduces a bit, and that usually goes to about 7 to 8mm. So just bear that in mind, that when you're doing your wrapping, there will be a bit of stretch, and there'll be a bit of shortening of, or lessening of that diameter if you're doing it right. So make account for that. Make sure you've got enough tension in your Ito, especially in these end bits here, which does make the knot a bit tricky, but this is the end game. This is usually you've done quite a few hours to get down to this part, and if you rush this part or do it wrong, then literally all your hard work will unravel. So let's crack on with it now. Now bear in mind, I'm no expert. I'm self-trained. I've been doing this for a while now, and there's many different ways to go about this, but what I'm showing you here today is the bare basics of how to get it done in a proper way. Many craftsmen have their little nuances, little tips and tricks and different characteristics that they put into the handle, and I think that's beautiful. I think that's a matter of personal expression, and I think it's a matter of just how they do it. It's their way, and you know, once you find your way of doing it, if it's work and within the guidelines, you know, happy days, more power to you. Right, so tools we'll need. I have used many ways to feed this through. At one stage there, I was just using a pick set and pushing it through. At another stage there, I just used, this was an old, I think it's like an old garden, when you get your little pots of assorted plants at a nursery. It's just one of those things. I used to fold it in half, place the Ito in there, put a bit of tape around there, and then use that with pliers to pull through. So I've recently moved on to another method now that I use, where I'm using this type of needle and polystring. Now, polystring, it's a synthetic or a plasticky type of string, but it's very strong, and I find it's really good for this application. Excuse me, guys, I wake up a bit croaky this morning. There's another example of it there. Now, these I think are leather working needles, so they have a flatter profile. You can see that there, and they actually open up here, so they have little spikes or catches on the inside there. So you slot down the material, whatever you're using, usually leather or something like that, and then close that up, and it grips onto that and stops that from coming undone. But they sit flat, and they're a nice flat profile, so they're fairly easy to get in under the wrap. So that's what I've got going on there. The string's in there, that's not going anyway. So yeah, that's enough of me babbling on. Anything else I will tell you on the way. Let's go. So you know that the handle has different sides to it. They all have different names. So your knot should, when you're starting the wrap, you should start on the omote side, which is the outer side. So when you have your sword on your hip, this is the side that is facing out. So you should start at the fuchi on that side. You should also finish or start your end knot on that side as well, and it's called the omote. So it's the omote side. The inside is called the ura, and then you have the blade side, which is this side, which is the ha, and this side is the moon. So we're starting with the cord that is on the ha, or the blade side, and we're on the omote side of the handle. And I know it can get a bit confusing, but yeah, you'll get used to it, guys. It's like anything when you first start out. Anything you're doing first up is always a little bit difficult, but then it gets easier. So other tools we'll need is couple of just crafting along those plies there, and you're assorted whatever your favourite picks are. So I've got a couple there that's just out of a pick set that has 4 different attachments to it. There's another attachment there, and I just swap those out. I mainly use this one, it's the most applicable for this type of work. And this other one here's got a flat one, or a spade shape there. So you can find these here and there, different craft shops. Different applications have different little tools and crafting tools and that, and it's amazing what you can just find and go, and then apply it to whatever you're doing, because this is pretty specialist work. So you can find the tool that works best for you, and it just makes it that little bit easier. So once we get this side done too, we can take this clamp off so it'll look a lot better, be easier to sort of see what I'm doing. But for now, what we're doing here is we've got to lock all this up. So we're coming from here, this one, and we want to, so we've started this center line going through. We want that to continue as best we can to match up with these end bits where you feed the ito right through the Kashiro here. So when you're doing this, try and bear in mind that it all still has to line up and be fairly symmetrical in order to look neat and do its job. So with this one, what we're doing, we're coming up and we're going underneath this fellow here. Some techniques say to pull it right to the side here. I like to try and keep it in line with these knots, but in order to get it in and under first up, you may have to just go to the side of the knot, because this is where there's a lot of tension as you're pulling it all tight. So in order to do that, I'll show you the method I use to get that through. So we're going to come with this one up and back through that way. So this is the way it's coming, so this is where I've got to feed this through here. You know, there'll be moments where I'll talk, guys, and there'll be long silences, because, you know, you get it, you don't need to hear me, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Sorry about that, guys, just hit the microphone. Right. So we just line that all up, maybe roughly things. Important too is don't have any twists like that going through, because that'll just muck you up. It's a lot easier to work with Yuto when it's flat. So keeping it fairly flat, coming around that way, just looping enough to get you through it, and then we're coming through here. Now bracing everything, of course, so you've got to keep that up there, thumb on there, whatever works for you, and we just wiggle, 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 pull that through, and a bit of a tug at the end, that comes free, and off we go. So feeding it down, and just pulling it across, again, trying to keep that center. It doesn't matter in the process if you go either all around the place, but as long as you come back to your center straight and everything, address the knot, which is all that fiddly bit. And also, if you find in the process that your knot is looking a bit flat, there's nothing to say that you can't cut some hishigami you know, to size and get it in there. I have, and it just holds everything nice and firm and tight, and the transitions look really nice actually. Right, so we're on this one here, so this one's about where we want it there, so let's work on the other one. So he's coming up, and again working with the same principle that it's not any twists or turns in it. What we're doing here is we're coming up and going over and under through there. Excuse me. So you'll see what happens as that pulls through, and under this one is going to come down and pull on top to keep that nice and tight. We should end up with one strand that way, one strand the other. So we'll get to that now. So if you find you're all fiddly and that fold is actually where you need to work, just pull it back out and give yourself plenty of room to work. So that'll sit down there a bit flatter now. And then this, and under there. So this is the way we're pulling it through. So again, this is the way we've got to get up and under it. Remember, one of the key principles here is working with your materials. You're not forcing anything, although sometimes you've got to put some force into it, but you're always aware of what's going on, how far you're pushing it, are you pinching anything, do you have to just stop and start again? There we go. So when you get to the end, what I've done also with cotton, you can burn it off and it makes a nice hard edge. With other materials, you may have to tape it or something like that. You can just leave it as is, but there is a bit of cutting that you've got to do in the end anyway to tidy those ends up. Right. So I hope that's not affecting you. I keep on bumping the microphone, guys, so my apologies if there's, I don't know how that's going to edit, but we'll see. Alright, so there we are, and this is, for this side, we're almost there. It's all about dressing the knots now, which is just the finer bits of making sure everything's where it should be. So with this one, I'll pull this back out a little bit, so you can see how these guys cross over. Everything's going to lock in. It's going to be really good. We're going to do more with this one, but we'll get to that. So with this first initial one, we're making sure it's tight enough, and what you will probably need to do, this is why it's so hard to demonstrate, is maybe just pinch that, and it depends on your material, what you're using, how far you have to go with the material to make it work. But if you pinch that like that, that will stop everything, all that bunching that comes from feeding this black one over. So now when I come down to there, that's a little bit more tucked in there, so it's a little bit more dressed. Otherwise, what can happen if you don't do that before you cinch this down, it will fold in the other way. It'll look a bit pinched. It'll just look a bit ugly, a bit rushed. So from there, we're pulling that one down, and again, before we get this one really tight and come back around, I just want to bring that to the middle. So you may have to loosen that off and take him out to the side. So you can see the interplay that all this tension has when you're working with this stuff. So if I just pinch that there, pull that down. I'm starting to carry on like it's the real deal. It's only a demo one. But yeah, so there we go. So now we can pull that down a bit and we can cinch that up. So if I pull that black one and the blue one, there we go. So by rights, if that's tight enough, and it is, I'm not really worried because it's, I'm not doing this for anyone. We can take that off and that just makes work a little easier. So, pretty easy, it's just a matter of taking your time with this type of stuff, guys, and you'll work it out, no problem at all. So, here we go. So, that's where we are. So, this fella now is coming back, up and under, this way. So, he's got to go through all that, okay? All that there. And when he comes up, he's going to pinch around and make a nice little knot there. Now that one, you'll notice on some handles, there's one side that looks like a nice little triangle, the other one that looks a little round. So, and that can happen with this. Some people don't worry about that, they just cinch them up so they sort of look the same. But again, what I've found to really keep that shape nice, you can stick Hishigabe, not a full size one, but you can stick a piece in there and really mold that shape into the handle. Right, so again, we're coming back in there. So we're coming through this way. And I just want to make sure that that's out of the way. And I might have to get that pick set just to guide everything through. And this is where having the right tools really helps, guys. There you go. Right. So again, making sure not any twists or turns in it that shouldn't be there. Let's give myself a bit more there. So bear in mind when you get to this end of paste, have everything braced, everything where it should be, because you do get to do a bit of tugging through here, and usually the wrapping is a lot tighter. There we go. So coming through there now. What I want to do here, sorry guys, is I just want to, if I can, twist that over. Got him. So what I did there was just put a twist in. So it was too flat, my fault. So now you'll see that as I come through there, there's this little loop. Okay, so good example, if you make a mistake, don't panic, you can fix it. So what I usually do is just put that pick through there, and as I'm pulling, that sort of comes down onto where that line is, pull out, and you'll see this time, because I was paying attention, there's that little symmetrical fold that comes into play. Looks good. But to sharpen that up, what you can do, and I'll do this very quickly, is you can place down in there, you may have to cut it a couple of times, you may have to make a mistake and cut another bit, but what you can do is lay that Hishigabe in there, like that. It doesn't matter if it splits and carries on, because you're not going to see it, but it's going to give that bulk, that body to the knot. Now I'm rushing like hell. But you can start to see when that gets tight through there. And I mean tight, like I'm not putting this as you would really pull in through here to get that slack out. So each time you adjust one, you have to adjust the other, and that just cinches everything up nice and evenly. And then you can see that'll keep that shape now. But you may not have to do that. Sometimes you'll just cinch down, it's just really nice and tight, fold it over well, sitting flush, happy days, move on. At other times, if it seems a bit flat, you may need to put that Boiger paper in there. And the same thing here, you can see that flattens out a bit there, that flattens out a bit there. So there's nothing to say you can't cut a Hishigabe in half and then apply that up in there to fill all that out, make everything nice and flush and finished. The devil's in the detail, as they say. So now we've got those through. So what we want to do is bring these two in line with each other like that. Bloody beautiful, look at that. And now we're going to feed them through the Kashira. Then you can work with the Kashira off. This will probably come off with me doing this, or we can leave it on. But what I would do is pull the back one, the one closest to the handle through first. That way you're not fighting against yourself. If you try and put that through, then you've got to dig around and get the other one around it and that type of thing. So just work in the steps or the process that's easiest for you guys. It's probably the trickiest bit of it, getting this through. Right, so just like that. Pretty simple here. I say that, but you watch. And then we're just dropping it through. What you might want to do here, when you get to this point, is just make sure that the shear has got no ragged bits of metal or hasn't been finished off when you go through the shidomi part here. If there's lots of, if it hasn't been filed, if it's a bit rough in there, you'll pull this cord through and it'll start to fray really bad. So you might have to just take your little file set and just run that through there, whatever size it works for you, and smooth everything off before you get going. So again, trying to give yourself as much room to work with as possible, just pulling back that ito. I'm just getting that up in there, hopefully to grab with this. Nothing like recording to make everything that doesn't normally happen. Funny that. What am I doing? I can do it this way. Right. I'll start thinking in a minute. It's pretty early here, it's straight. It's been raining for 2 days, it's actually nice. Very nice weather at the moment, autumn we're coming into. Right. So there we are. So again, pulling those two through, making sure you've got the same amount of tension on both bits of wrap. And that's just something I've got there to keep the downward tension on the handle. So none of that will come undone now because we've pulled that all through nice and tight. So I hope that makes a bit more sense to you. That's the first half of the knot. We've got to go into the other side of the handle and make the other side now. You can see there, like I said, this is the thinner side of the wrap that I'm using. This blue is a little thinner, and you can see there it hasn't come up quite flush against there. But again, if you put Hishigami in there and pull that through, you may close that gap. But on a real handle, this Semigawa will be coming up underneath there, and you wouldn't see that. You just see race skin. Okay, just so you know. So the transitions there, even though this is just a demo handle, they're not too bad. So this one's sitting pretty flush. This one's up a little bit. Again, if you really pull into that and dress the knot and get it happening, that will all sit really nicely. Okay, so moving on to the other side, guys. All right, here we are on the other side. So this is the ura side, or the inside of the handle. So a little bit more to do here, so forgive me if I don't speak as much as you just got to remember the steps of what I'm doing, so it makes a bit of sense to you guys. So we've just come out the other side, so what I would do is probably start with this this one that is closer to the handle, the one that you put in through first. So what we're doing with this guy is he's going to come underneath this first transition here. I'm going to pull him back up and under again, so he'll eventually come through and make that sort of pattern. Okay, so the best way to show you is to do it. Okay, so easy enough, but what I like to do here is just take it over across just a little bit, and that just gives you enough room to bring it up and under here. Right. So just dressing the knot, bring that all to the middle as much as you can, and bringing that down. So again, it closes fairly near to that midline there. like so. This could be the tricky bit because you need to really try and get that over into the middle. What you can do is go and dress the knot. So you're pinching that eye-toe under as you're pulling it through. And by doing that, you're just decreasing that diameter so that you can play around with it and get it pretty much where it needs to sit. So there's a bit more to do. So again, you'll pull that up such that wouldn't overly tighten anything, but just make sure everything is where it should be, and then we can move on to the next step, which is this top one. So now what we're doing with this one, again, this is, we just need a little bit of patience, need to work with the materials. So we're coming onto this side. Now if you're coming up into here, you find you're a little bit short on space, again, just give yourself that room you need. You'll probably have picks under here to try and give yourself a bit more room anyway. But once you get used to the process, guys, it's pretty smooth. It's just remembering, what happens when. Okay. Now with those, again, you can dress them up, or you can leave them that way and really work to get these in line. But there you go. That's the base of it there of what we're doing. So we've come from this first one up, under, back over, and this one we've just started feeding that way down through the knot. So now we have our 2 strands. And bear in mind, you would muck around with this a bit more, you would dress these guys up, but I'm just showing you the basic structure of this knot so it can get you through, and then you can develop your own style around that. So this fella now comes around this way, like that, and comes back through here. So as you can see, there's a lot of under over, but this is what locks it off. This is what makes these knots so durable. Okay, so what I'm going to do is come through this way, get everything out of the way. And you'll see, little scratches here on the cashier and that type of thing. Sometimes it might pay just to tape them off, that type of thing. But if you take your time, it's not really a problem. Right. So we've got this guy a little bit folded there. We just want to keep that action because it just helps everything tuck in a little better. So I'm just seeing where that needs to be so I can fold it through this way. Sorry. Okay, so then we can just pull that through. Try and keep this in the middle as much as you can. Pulling that through. Okay, so from here, so we've got that all closed off. That one's down there. This one's just come across. We're going to loop over here. We're going to come back down that way. And then from there, what we can do is cut these off and just dress the knot, and it's happy days, you're done. But we bring this over, down and through, and then we can cut it and tuck it under there, so that can act to buffer that out. And this is locked now, so this one's going under, over this one, and we're really pulling that tension into that. You can see that whole knot sort of moving, because again, this isn't as tight as what it should be, so you'll get that movement. But when this is locked in and you've already completed that knot on the other side, this gets very tight. It's incredibly tight to work with, but you still can do it. Just a matter of allowing yourself that little bit of play, or enough play here at the end knot, so that when you in the wrap, so that when you move on to your end knot, it tightens up to be exactly the same as the rest of the handle. And that just, it takes time, it takes a few handles, my friends. So that again, you can dress that with Hishigami again. It'll make that lock even tighter. But let's get this bit done here. And if you've dressed them up and pulled them in a bit tighter, which you can do, you can get the pick set in there. You can pull this one across, right, like so, tighten, tighten, tighten. And that will sit in a bit closer, but this also will pull all those in there a bit quicker too. So let's get that done. So thanks for your patience, guys. I try to make this stuff as quick and easy to understand as I can, but it's funny when you're doing this type of stuff, the simpler you try and make it, the more complicated it gets. But we get there. Pull that through. There we go. And pulling that down. So again, as you know, it's a real good feeling to get all this sort of tightened up. Don't rush it. Pull him across. You may need to fold that down in order to dress that knot a bit more. You can see there as I fold that, and I'm not, you would really slow right down here and get everything in place. And the idea is, if you're going to fold it, try and make it so it's an even fold. So the amount of little strands you've got showing here are the amount of little strands you've got showing there. So even like fold it at this side, but just left this flat and open, because again that just looks untidy. Even. Make sure everything's even. That's what I gotta do. So that is what we sort of after there. So before you cinch it up here, you may have to get in there and you're really working that cord across, so that when you pull it up, it's sitting a little bit more even, like that. So that, my friends, and bear in mind this is loose. You'll see all that, the nitty gritty, what's under the hood there, because it's not a handle that I'm going to use. It's just a handle for the demonstration purposes that we're doing here today. But that is basically it, guys. There is the other side of the knot. When it's put on a good handle and you're using the right hishigami in there, that is all dressed up lovely. But that is the basic structure of how to go about doing these end knots. So from there, with these two down here, what I would do is cut there and cut there, and then you're away, and hopefully using a re-wrapped handle. So that's about all there is to it, guys. I hope that has been helpful for you. My next one will probably be a sword review on a couple of JQ swords that I got. They're supposed to be the same type of swords, but there's a lot of differences between them. So stay tuned for that one. But for now, that's the end game done. So that is Maki-Dashi, the end knot for the Maki style of the Tsukamaki handle wrap. A lot of Makis in there. But I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Any comments, questions, queries, feel free to give them to me and I'll answer them as best I can. I know there's a lot of other tutorials and pictures and different things like this on the YouTube channel and the web. So look around. If this hasn't made it clear for you, then at least it's just builds your understanding and base knowledge of how to go about it. So once again, thanks very much for your time, guys, and we'll see you next episode. Bye for now.